6. You know what Liz Taylor said to her 5th husband? I won't keep you long. I bring greetings from my wife, Lori, and we've been dating 57 years and married 53 years. 49 of those were happy. And we have 6 kids and 22 grandkids, and now 4 great-grandchildren. I never wanted to be married to a great-grandmother, but we're here now, and I was youth pastor at our church for 17 years and then senior pastor for 25. And I got saved at 18. Our family didn't go to church. I wasn't raised in church. I wasn't against God and the Bible, but just so much like Brother Childs, nobody ever told me the gospel. Nobody ever showed me. And boy, my senior year of high school, there was a new blonde girl on the school bus. I wasn't saved, but I wasn't blind. And so, hey, she invited me to church. I heard the gospel and I got saved. And for me, it was a 2-syllable word, saved. I meant it. I knew what I was getting saved from and what I was getting saved for and what I was getting saved to. And I never looked back. But I'm really a dairy farmer from Wisconsin. When you wake up every morning and go out in the barn and 60 women stand up and raise their tail, and that starts your day. You know where you are in the pecking order of things. And so I always get nervous whenever there's guys behind me. Abraham Lincoln paid a price for that, and I just get nervous, especially if the guys are real handsome. But I felt safe with this crowd, and so here's my deal. I'm not much on the Mutual Admiration Society. I tell you how wonderful you are. You tell me how wonderful I am. The best for any of us. We're sinners saved by grace, and we wouldn't amount to a hill of beans were it not for the grace of God. And the pastor said 100% of our teens have been to the field, and 75% of our adults have been to the field. We just believe in reaching the world. Our church has been blessed and grown locally, and that enables us to do more around the world. People say, are you just into the numbers, nickels, and noses? No, but numbers represent souls. And we're trying to expand our outreach, and don't get more spiritual than God. He said this many got saved at Pentecost, and this many got saved at the next time, and this many got saved. And I'm saying we don't pray to anything but Jesus. We don't worship a man. But God uses men. God uses people. The services, the part that I have, I'm thankful, boy, when Brother Childs, my hands are both up. Let's vote to support Brother Childs, and Pastor King votes both hands for him. What a tremendous presentation. What a wonderful testimony. And, but here's the thing. The services that I get to preach, I want to show you book, chapter, and verse. Long after you forget the missionary's name, I've seen so many sheaves of wheat. I've seen so many children with muddy faces. I've seen so many sunsets work while it's day. I've seen thousands of missionary presentations. But long after you forgot their name and even what country they were going to, what this Bible says is going to say the same thing in your lap. And what you do for good and for God, you better have book, chapter, and verse, because you're going to answer to God for how you followed this Bible. And so am I. So am I. And so I'm not like a lot of the southern preachers. It's make noise and swing from the chandeliers and scream and yell and all of that stuff. The honk of the horn doesn't tell you how much gas is in the tank. When you're from up north, we had Dr. David Gibbs come and preach at our church, and boy, he had the people laughing and crying, and he's a master pulpiteer, and he can tell stories that weren't even true and make you believe it. And we're shaking hands at the door, and I'm standing right next to him, and Dr. Gibbs is right there. And one of the men of our church, demon-possessed, he comes out and says, I wish we could have preached like that every Sunday. And I said, I'm standing right here. I can hear you. At least give me credit for inviting the guy. I want to hear decent preaching once in a while myself. And look, I'm not here to teach you some new thing that even God never heard of. What that man believes, the rest of us believe. And what he's trying to get you to do, the rest of us are trying to get you to do. In the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, let every word be established. Paul went around, it says, certifying the brethren, confirming the churches. And so I'm not here to teach you some new doctrine that even God never heard of or any of that stuff. What you already hear preached, what you know to do, I'm here to just say, let's do more. That's all. That's all. I'm not tricky. I'm plain as a mud fence when it comes to this. But today, we're in Proverbs 26, and down to verse 12. If you haven't found Proverbs by now, just stare at the page you're on. That's close enough. We're going to look at 4 or 5 verses and make some practical applications. And through this week, I like to use volunteers, victims to help me with some illustrations. And so if you find your way to Proverbs 26 down to verse 12 through 16, we'll read the text and get right to work here. Follow with me, verse number 12. Seest thou a man wise in his own conceit? There's more hope of a fool than of him. The slothful man saith, there is a lion in the way, a lion is in the streets. As the door turneth upon his hinges, so doth the slothful upon his bed. The slothful hideth his hand in his bosom, it grieveth him to bring it again to his mouth. Verse 16 is our text, and I want you to watch this carefully. The sluggard is wiser in his own conceit than 7 men that can render a raisin. Notice verse 12 uses that term, in his own conceit. In verse 16 it says, in his own conceit. You'll notice there's 2 words, slothful and sluggard. We got to buy this place a mic. I don't like handheld mics. We got to get a lapel mic. A sloth, we all know what a sloth is. The 3-toed sloth hangs upside down on branches in Australia. It's a vegetarian, and they're slothful. The body metabolism is so slow, they call it torpor, and it hangs upside down, and it moves this 3-toed foot like this. But, you know, what does it take to actually sneak up on a leaf? You know, I mean, you don't, you know, if you're going to capture it, that doesn't. But when you call somebody a sloth, that's not meant to be a compliment. And we all know what a slug is, right? A snail. What did the snail say when he got on the back of the turtle? Whee! If somebody calls you a slug, that's not actually a compliment either. And so here in Proverbs, he's talking about the sluggard and the sloth. And I'm just going to say plainly, this is a long road to a small house, but every one of us has just as much of God in our life as we choose to. You decided whether or not you were going to read the Bible this morning. You decided whether or not you were going to pray. You decided whether or not you're going to be in church. I came a long ways, and I'm going to be here tonight and tomorrow and the next day and the next day. I'd like to be. My granddaughter had a brain surgery. They find out tomorrow whether or not it's cancerous. I'd like to be there for her. And I'm not bragging or complaining. I'm saying to you what we're doing is very important. The church voting on the fate of the world. And so I want you here on purpose. And you're going to choose. You're just going to make your choice. And you look in your checkbook, and I'll tell you what your priorities are. If you're spending more on cat food than you are on missions, you're going to answer to God Almighty. You say, what about cats? Or dogs? I'm a dairy farmer. We took care of animals. If you have animals, take care of them. But listen, don't put that ahead of the work of God Almighty. And now I just lost 4 people for tomorrow night, Pastor. I had a cat. When you're on a farm, you think differently about animals. But there's a bumper sticker in Wisconsin, dogs are people too. No, they're not. No, they're not. My pet cat, favorite pet cat, beautiful cat, and it laid down on the straw, and a cow laid down flat. Cat. I'm inconsolable. I got this cat. I show it to my dad. I'm weeping, and I said, look at that stupid cow laid on my cat. And he said, no, your stupid cat laid underneath a cow. And every pet you have is going to die before you do, unless you get a sea turtle. So he said, if you have one that'll never get hit on the road, or never get laid on by a cow, or never get run over by the tractor, or never get killed by the dog, keep this one. It will never run away. It'll never get hurt again. I said, well, I'm not going to keep a dead cat. He said, good, give it to me. And I gave it to him. He threw it in the gutter behind the cow to go out, be spread in the field. Tough lessons when you're 8 years old. But I was so glad after I got saved to find out animals are not near as important as souls are. I'm not preaching on that. I just got on a bunny trail. The verses here, look what it says in verse 12. Seest thou a man wise in his own conceit? There's more hope of a fool than of him. And then it describes, the slothful man saith, there's a lion in the way. A lion is in the streets. You can tell if you've ever been in leadership, when you make a suggestion, those people who the first words out of their mouth is an objection, they have no intentions of doing it. Won't that cost a lot of money? How come nobody else is doing it? Are you sure we should try it? Some people see opportunities, other people see obstacles. And the one that always brings, well, won't that be hard? Ooh, wouldn't want to do anything hard. The slothful man says, there's a lion in the streets. Oh, look out! There might be something to oppose us. Or what does it say here? As the door turneth, verse 14, as the door turneth upon his hinges, so doth the slothful upon his bed. The Bible says the sleep of a laboring man is sweet. My dad used to say when we'd work hard all day on the farm, he'd say, well, that's birth control work. You're not going to go horning around tonight. You're going to go to bed and you're going to sleep. But when somebody doesn't actually work hard, and they're all rolled up in their mind, and they're tossing and turning on their bed, and they can't get to sleep, and they're fretting, and they're worrying, and he says, the slothful man, like a door on a hinge, he's flopping around on his bed all the time. I promise you, if he did some of the work, bale hay all day, and I promise you, you go to sleep at night. And then I don't even know what the next verse is talking about. It says in verse 15, the slothful hideth his head in his bosom. It grieveth him to bring it again to his mouth. I don't know, but you got to be some kind of lazy if you won't even feed yourself. I mean, that's getting right down near the bottom of the barrel, I would say. But then, verse 16, and this is all I want to say, and really, I'm serious when I say all I'm saying tonight is, you're going to get the mind of God for what you ought to do financially for the work of God here. And every one of you, you're going to make that choice. You don't run my finances. I don't run your finances. But if you're going to do more, then that means those that have never been involved, we're asking you to get involved in giving to missions and the soul winning efforts here. And those of you that already are having a part, we're asking you to get the mind of God. What could you do with the help of God? And then for those that maybe will get a raise or an inheritance or sell a business, to be able to honor the Lord. Most faith promise cards nowadays will have a column on the bottom. I promise to give 50% of all unexpected income to the missions program of this church. And I'm just saying, you do what God leads you to do. I appreciate you didn't pick my wife. I didn't pick yours. You don't balance my checkbook. I don't balance yours. But it's going to take more money if you're going to have an expanded ministry. Everybody okay with that? I mean, you say, well, who doesn't know that? I don't know. They invited me here. I thought maybe somebody didn't know that. Verse 16. The sluggard. I would never call you that, but if the shoe fits, you go right ahead and put it on. Is wiser in his own conceits than 7 men that can render a reason. So I was looking for a teenager, and brother, you're as close as I can get. Even the worst of us can be used for a bad example. This is Fred, and Fred is a junior in high school, and he is some kind of lazy. He won't do his homework. He flunks every test. He feigns sickness to skip school whenever he can. He hides in the janitor's closet if he does go to school. He hates school. He doesn't want to go to school. He won't do his schoolwork. It's no end of grief to his parents. They bought him a school bag and clothes and a calculator and a computer, and boy, we use this phrase, probably not politically correct, but crippled too high for crutches. Where he's broke, the crutches don't go up quite that far. And so it grieves his parents, and they're just begging him, threatening him, bribing him, do your stupid schoolwork. Finally, they said, we're at our wits' end. We don't know what to do. We wanted to go to school and talk to the guidance counselor. And so the guidance counselor sits him down and says, Fred, now look, here's how this works. Education is a building thing. You know, you learn some things in first grade, and then you go to second, and you learn addition, and then you learn how to do multiplication. And boy, you learn English grammar and parts of speech, and then you studied English literature. And boy, I'll tell you, you learn about geography in the East and the West and the sun, and you learn science and biology, and you know, it's just building blocks. And boy, if you don't buckle down and really focus, you're not going to pass your junior year here. You went from sophomore to junior, but man, you're never going to be a senior if you don't buckle down and focus. And all of us who are normal, we say, boy, he's right. That's exactly true. Boy, this is how education works. But if you're talking to somebody who doesn't want to hear it, he says, I didn't even want to be a junior. I don't care about being a senior. I don't like school. I don't want to be here. And all objective people say, wow, he's some kind of broke here. So the parents, frustrated, we're going to have him talk to Uncle John. Uncle John went to college, started his own business. He's a multi-godzillionaire. He's got a Corvette and a cabin and a boat, and he always likes hanging out with his uncle. And so we'll have his uncle talk to him. So his uncle comes and says, hey, Fred, look, good to see you again. Listen, you know me, I really, when it was my turn to learn, when I was in school, I really focused and I did my very best and I did well and I got a scholarship. And then I went to college and boy, I served an internship in the summers and I got right into my field of study. And boy, when I was 23, I already was making six figures. And I'll tell you, there is a reward if you would just delay your gratification, if you would just buckle down and deny your free time and just really, and I'm telling you, you could have the stuff I have. You could have your own Corvette convertible. You could have a cabin. You could have a boat. But if you're this guy, he says, I don't have to have that to be happy. If I ever want to use something like that, I'll just borrow yours. Right? If they don't want to do it, it wouldn't matter. So, hey, what we'll do is we'll have him talk to Frank. Frank's respected in the community. He's the president of the bank, and boy, he knows our family, and he's been here for a cookout. We'll have him talk to Fred. And so hey, Fred, look, I gotta just be square with you. If you don't graduate from high school, you're going to be cursed the rest of your life with entry-level jobs. And you're going to be the last one hired. You're going to be the first one let go. You're going to add no value to that company. And when you get married, you're not going to be able to support a family on one income. And so then you're going to have a part-time job at the gas station at night. And you're going to be scratching to pay rent. And you're going to drive a rundown car. And then, hey, you're not going to see your kids' soccer games. You're not going to be able to, all because you were lazy in high school. And look, now, all normal people know this is actually true. It is what it is. But see, if you're this guy, he says, I'll probably marry a school teacher or a nurse and I'll let her take care of me. You see, what does the verse say? The sluggard is wiser in his own conceit than 7 men that could render a reason. We're going to have him talk to another guy, and the guy says, hey, look, here's the income of those that didn't graduate. Here's the ones that have high school diploma. Here's ones that are apprentices or got a 2-year tech school. Here's the ones that are 4-year degree. Here's to try to incentivize him. But if he doesn't want to, he says, I'll probably live with my parents the rest of my life. Well, I then talk to Grandpa. Grandpa says, hey, look, I worked hard. I retired after 40 years. They gave me a watch and a pension, and now I can sit in the park and feed the pigeons and do whatever I want every day. And he says, I'm already doing that. I just go to the park and feed the pigeons. And what you find out is somebody that doesn't want to do it. It doesn't matter how much you want them to do it. Did you ever have a 9-month-old little girl in a high chair and you're giving her a jar of applesauce and there's one more spoon of applesauce and you're trying to get it to, and you bump her lower lip and you open your mouth and you try to get in there and she's going like this and you're trying and she's refusing, and it might go in her hair, it might go on her bib, it might go in her cheek, but it ain't going in the pie hole. Now hear me think, you can You know who the hardest person to wake up is? If somebody's honestly sleeping, they're laying there, they're asleep, and you go and you make noise. Hey! And you make noise and they startle awake and they're like, what, is it time? If someone's actually sleeping and you turn on lights and they've been in Never Land and boy, the lights come on and they look and wow, is it time to get up? Somebody that's honestly sleeping, you can wake them up. Know who you can't wake up? You can't wake up somebody that pretends to be sleeping. No matter how much noise you make, no matter how many lights you turn on, they're like this. No, I just can't see it. I don't know what you're getting at. Nope, I sure don't understand that. Because it's not a function of information. It's a function of will. It's a purposeful choice. And I'm saying, you know this is true. Our government, hey, we need more gun laws, more gun laws, more gun laws, and you present them all the facts. More gun laws is not stopping the crime. It's the heart of people. It doesn't matter because they do have another agenda, and that's to take away your guns. And you can turn on all the lights and you can make all the noise and you say, why can't they see it? Because they don't want to see it. Well, that's the same way you could bring in a guy from Wisconsin and he can scream and yell or beg and plead, weep and moan, eyes bug out, neck veins stick out, do cartwheels across the platform, handstands. Well, you couldn't do handstands. But just because I want it for you is not the same as you wanting it. The sluggard, the person who has no intention of doing it whatsoever, he just can't see it. No, I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know. I got questions. I don't know. And at the start of this conference, I'm just here to tell you, that's saying a lot more about you than it is about me. The pastor wants it for you. I want it for you. The missionaries want it for you. Everybody who did more for the work of God is mighty glad they did. You have a devil that says, do less for God. You have a flesh that says, do less for God. You have a world, no friend of grace, that says, do less for God. And one leather-lunged pastor that stands up and says, let's do more for God. When you die, you know what's going to happen? You're not going to stand there and say, wow, that preacher was all wet. Man, I did way too much for God. Yeah, no, I'm telling you, he was way off in the, you know what you're going to say? By and by, when I look on his face, I'll wish I had given him more. I'm trying to help you. And so I'm done, my prayer. The sluggard is wiser in his own conceit than 7 men that could render a reason. It wouldn't matter how many people you parade across this platform. It wouldn't matter how many tear-jerking mission stories you heard or saw. You're still going to decide for you what you're going to do, where the priority of missions and church support is on your financial budget. And so I'm asking you this just to start our conference. It's just one point, could you ask God, show me what you want me to do through the ministry of this church for worldwide missions. And ask God to direct you. I wouldn't think of intruding into your business, your checkbook, your savings. But you could ask God to direct you and enable you. The next few nights, we're going to look book, chapter, and verse at the missions passages in the Bible. But tonight, we're starting, and I know it cuts close to the cloth. You say, are you calling me a sloth? No. Are you saying I'm a sluggard? No. I'm only saying this is what it looks like when somebody doesn't intend to do something. I'm asking, could you ask God, between you and God, what you ought to do? Heads bowed and eyes closed tonight.